And
I really like looking at y'all.
all right, and bam! Welcome everybody. Hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's webinar. For those of you who don't know us, we're Chiropractic Health Center and Hannan Wellness. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We've been serving the New Orleans area for over 35 years. She is. And Dr. Debbi is tonight's presenter. Dr. Debbi. And a recorded version will be available and emailed to every registered email and be you can share it with your friends and family. Also, we'd love to hear from you. So tonight, if you have a question during tonight's webinar, you're going to text my cell phone, my personal cell phone, 504-237-5391. Text your question. When it pops in your head, text it to me. And at the end of the webinar, Dr. Hannan will answer your questions. Try to keep it, related to the webinar. And if you got further questions, of course, you can contact us at the clinic at 454-2000. So we'll answer those questions at the end. And so once again, welcome everybody. And here's Doc.
So if you can work on that. Okay, so again, I just want to say I'm glad that you're here. It's our passion to help people be the best version of themselves that they can be. So it's fun for us really to do these webinars the last Tuesday of every month. And thanks for coming aboard. So tonight we're going to start out with a little bit more general information, and then we're going to dig deeper into some more technical information, which is kind of my favorite place because I love the science behind the strategies. So to start out, when it comes to health and wellness, the best way for each of us to make forward progress is to set goals. And the setting of goals I'm trying to change it.
Gotcha.
The setting of goals really should be specific, which means that we should have a plan of how we're going to accomplish them. And then we also should have a way to measure our success. So that might seem premature to you at this point, but as we walk through this presentation, maybe the presentation will help create awareness of where it's best for you to focus on in regards to goal setting. And then maybe you could note the areas where you'd like to improve, and then after the presentation, start working on your goals. And when you create goals, you want to remember to create action steps for the goals, and then also consider a way to best measure that the result of the goal or your success. So we don't want you to have a goal like, I just want to be healthier, because that's kind of vague. So instead, you might say something like, I have a goal to exercise, and you're specific about how much. Or you might have a goal that you want to learn more about your omega-3/6 balance. Or maybe you just want to have a goal that you're going to eat 8 to 10 servings of veggies a day. So, just as a quick overview, our bullet points are the general areas that we'll be considering tonight. And we have a lot of information packed into these areas. Conscientious eating, overcoming inflammation, food and supplements, food versus supplements, get moving and get outdoors, and address sleep, stress and sleep. So repetition is always the mother of skill or learning. And the more we refocus on topics, the more that they become part of who we are. And when we really clearly understand the topic about health, it becomes like integrated into our daily life and becomes a habit or is self-regulating, which is really what we're all striving for. A lot of people ask, like, how can you do this or that? Like, how can you not eat gluten, for instance? And I might say, it's simple because I understand the science behind it and what happens in the body when I do it. So that's always what I'm motivated to help people understand. So they can, when you understand better, it's easier to stick with the strategy. So also, as we're progressing tonight, I want us to be aware of bridging the gap between what we know to do and what we are currently doing. And that's why I throw out having a goal or a few areas of goals, because you can't change your health overnight, but you can make positive forward steps little by little. So, we want to focus on specific areas until they become part of how we operate daily. So I'm starting with mindfulness. Dietary habits are really so mandatory to a healthy life. And if you were with us in our last webinar, we mentioned that there's three very powerful areas of lifestyle changes that we can work on that can make a huge impact on our health. And those three areas are represented by the words fingers, fork, and feet. Fingers, stop smoking. Fork, watch what you're eating and change it. And feet, get moving. So I'm going to start with food. Mindfulness about our food and diet and eating habits is important, and it's an important tool in our toolbox of successful daily habits. It's a tool that causes us to be present in the moment. So my slide is kind of, meant to be funny. Today I will live in the moment unless the moment is unpleasant, in which case I will eat a cookie.
Hello.
I am the ultimate, like if I had my favorite go-to junk, it would always be a cookie. Now what that looks like has evolved a lot over time. But anyways, it's important that we don't eat or watch television. We don't eat and watch television, or we don't eat and we're on Facebook, because we're not really mindful of what we're doing. So it's important for us to practice to let go of those things so that we're aware and we're in the moment when we're eating, and that really can produce great results. Being mindful is associated with the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and that's kind of like our executive thinking area. So interestingly enough, the prefrontal cortex is greatly affected by sleep deficits. And it's a key area of our brain that regulates our good choices. So when we're disconnected from our prefrontal cortex, we're really not in the moment. And then our decisions are more impulsive. They're not well thought out, and they pretty much represent the input from another part of our brain called the amygdala. And a lack of sleep favors the amygdala, which then causes us to make more of an emotional decision rather than a thoughtful decision. But even when we get a good night's sleep, if we're not mindful, we can eat based on emotion or just maybe a bad habit. So mindfulness would also include learning to pay attention to signals from the body about hunger and satiety. And I want you to remember 20 minutes regarding satiety, because satiety really arises from our small intestine, and it takes about 20 to 25 minutes into eating for our small intestine to kick in and go, got it, you're getting full. So mindful eating would include slowing down, and that allows the satiety factors to kick in, which kind of results in eating less and enjoying more. I know that when I'm on our ideal protein program for a reset, my portions are just specifically a certain amount. And I know that I always eat slower.
I eat faster.
And I enjoy it. So when you sit down to a meal, start practicing mindfulness. Carol Brown of Food Trainers reported that in addition to commercials of unhealthy food and drinks increasing our cravings, TV is so distracting that it makes it harder to realize when we're actually full. And science agrees with this. The Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that paying attention while eating can aid weight loss efforts while distracted eating can lead to long-term increase in food consumption. So I can't skip the importance of drinking water with conscientious eating. We should all be drinking about half our body weight in ounces every day. And we should also be very aware of the kind of water that we're drinking. We need to be drinking clean filtered water. Also, we like to drink slightly alkaline water that we filter our own at home. We choose slightly alkaline water because our body, when it's healthy, is slightly alkaline. And that means that it's just a little bit over the neutral point, which is 7.0. So slightly alkaline is like 7.2, maybe 7.3.
And there's only a few bottled water companies that are actually really alkaline after you purchase them.
Yeah, so this was something that I learned probably 15 years ago. And I thought, that's crazy. The water can't be acidic in all those bottles. So I took Daron took me to the grocery store, and we bought
it's like a science project.
We bought every single bottle of water that you could buy. And yes, the bottled waters are acidic. With the exception of Evermore is an alkaline one, and Mountain Valley Spring is an alkaline one. Now, there are probably other ones out there, but those are the ones that we recommend to patients. Now, we're all on different places in our journeys to health, and we're also on different budgets. So we want to do the best that we can do for our current budget, which can be subject to change over time. So, you know, I want to caution that my favorite actually is Mountain Valley Spring if I'm out and about and I haven't taken my own water from home, because we actually filter our water at our house, and our water is clean and it has been tested by doctor's data. There's no heavy metals in it. And we use a RO system, and then once it goes through the RO system, we put it through a small alkalizer. There is a company in our town that you can put that under your sink for about $1,000, and then it only costs about $150 every 12 to 18 months to change some of the filters that need to be changed on it.
It's a little more expensive now.
So it is, okay. So, but anyway, it's a great system. If you need to know more about that, you can ask us. So I just want to add the importance of avoiding an overabundance of plastic products. You know, we try not to use any plastic storage products. We don't drink out of plastic water bottles for the most part. And the reason is because we can't avoid plastics in so many other areas. Like, you know, so many other things that you get in the grocery store are packaged in plastics, and they're endocrine disruptors, and they can affect the thyroid gland, they can affect the reproductive organs, as well as cause cellular stress and free radical production in our fatty acids, which is really all of our cell membranes. So you want to consider using a reusable water bottle. Make sure that it's BPA free. BPA has been associated with larger waistlines and weight gain in general. And this is a great place for me to insert my plug for our organic matcha green tea. It has so many positive effects, and it's loaded with great nutrition. I suggest that you consider adding it to your daily protocol. We start our morning out every day with water first, and then organic matcha green tea.
Matcha green tea.
Okay, so success always leaves clues, and dietary success always includes forethought. So this might start with the grocery store, but there may be some weeks where, you know, it requires outside help. But in both cases, preparation is key.
Totally.
So if it's a week to do it yourself, writing a grocery list before heading to the store is mandatory. And why is that? The list is created from a pre-thought out menu.
Because you don't want to go in there like me when I'm hungry.
Right. We have a list, and it's like Darren's leash. No, not really, but you know what I'm saying. Okay. So the Journal of Nutrition Education and Behavior studied like 1,300 people, and they discovered that shoppers who regularly wrote grocery lists also purchased healthier foods and had lower BMIs than those who didn't. So it also helps to write your list in the order that the foods are found in the store, because that'll keep you from going back and forth through the store and being tempted by things that you don't want to be tempted by. Also, consider not having junk in the house. Most people don't have an urge to eat celery, but cookies are a different story. So
celery will stop you from wanting to have cookies.
Yes, that's true. We can't eat what's not there. So our week supply should encourage healthful eating, not just for meals, but also for our snacks. And remember, the best way to avoid empty calories and wasteful spending is to practice meal prep. Make a habit of prepping the food you want to eat for the week ahead, at least like Monday through Friday. Darren and I kind of have like this system. We shop on Friday.
No, shop on Thursday, chop on Friday, cook on Saturday.
Or do that, or
I call it
Friday.
Shop, chop, and roll.
Or we do it the other 3 days, but
Right.
we kind of break it up so it's easier, you know. And he's kind of like my sous chef. Like he chops, and I make the salad dressings or cook whatever needs to be cooked. So there's a lot of blogs dedicated to that are online, dedicated to meal prep for all kinds of budgets. If you're low carb, Geneva's cookbook that we have in the office is amazing. And if you're in the area and you're pressed and you don't have time to do all that you need to do in the week, you can order from a meal prep service or a meal service. Like in this area, we have one that delivers out of our office on Mondays. It's called ReadyPrepGoMeals.com. Amazing prices. She cooks paleo or IP, and it just really can be helpful for a busy person. Another one that's suitable but not for IP patients is BickfordFamilyFoods.com.
Who just knocked on my door just a minute ago.
And another one is Green Fork's, getting on Green Fork NOLA's email list. They make food deliveries right now, and they also do awesome juice fasts. Like if a person wants to do a juice fast, so those are some ideas that you can use. So like we're all guilty of binge eating, especially when it comes to snacks and other foods that we like cookies. The biggest tip I have for you is this: plan and eat healthy meals. I know that when we're eating healthy meals, we're not snacking as much. I also know that I could snack all day on stuff that's not healthy for me and then not have the desire to eat a healthy meal. So remember that you won't snack or binge as much if you have a plan. And remember that planning or failing to plan is
planning to fail.
And
I tell my dieters, you know, when you're trying to lose weight, you just want to get to your goal. So we do have cheat days in the maintenance phase, but when you're losing weight, you just want to get to the weight loss goal first, and then we can teach you how to kind of live a more free life where you have cheat days and cheat meals, but it doesn't really work real well when you're trying to drop it like it's hot.
So also you might want to consider with portion control, using a smaller plate or bowl. I don't like using a dinner plate at night when we're eating. I use a lunch plate because it helps me eat more for my size rather than Darren's. And an interesting study was done in the Journal of Appetite. It says that eating off a red plate helps you eat less. I should have had a red plate in the slide. I guess it acts like a stop sign.
I need a red plate all the time.
And it instructs the mind to stop eating. It also has been suggested by a study in Cornell University that guys that eat out with women eat 93% more. So I don't know if they're like overeating to show off.
Women eat 93% less.
That's like just saying. When we first got together, when we would go out to dinner, I would get like halfway through my meal and he would like be looking at me like he wanted the rest on my plate. He never would order what I ordered. He would never order what I ordered because he would like think I'm going to try two things. And there came a point about a year into our marriage, I would tell him like, you know what? I'm really hungry tonight.
I'm eating the whole plate.
I'm eating my whole plate tonight. So
wait,
anyway.
I got another secret too. One of my biggest secrets, and we teach this when you get in the maintenance phase, and we teach this in life in general, is when you do have a cheat meal or a cheat day, it's the meal right after the cheat meal or the day right after the cheat day. That's got to be like perfectly good and healthy and lean and low carb, and it helps you manage your weight even better. So it's a really good trick.
Yeah, another thing about helping to eat less is dimmer lights and soft music. They're supposed to be really helpful, you know. And then I'm going to add, to finish this slide, when you're done eating, then take out your phone and record what you ate. The more food records people keep over the course of 30 months, the more weight loss they lost in an American Journal of Preventive Medicine study.
Wow.
So that's when you should have your phones out.
Yeah, you can't be writing Snickers every 5 minutes.
All right, let's go to fruits and veggies. Veggies and fruit. You know, our veggies should really, and fruit should be foundational to our health. And I'm going to put the emphasis on veggies. Now, the Center for Disease Control says that really only 10% of Americans are getting their recommended daily servings. And they recommend that we eat 1 to 1.5 cups of fruit and 2 to 3 cups of veggies a day. Now, I recommend from the Institute of Functional Medicine that we get like 8 to 10 servings of fruits and veggies a day. A serving of a vegetable is a 1/2 cup cooked, or a cup of a raw green. A serving of a fruit would be like a medium apple. So this is really easy with planning to get the recommended servings, but it's impossible without a plan. And I want to just reiterate, we're in a high glycemic society, meaning blood sugar is too high on a lot of people. So beware of eating too much fruit. It's really the veggies that people really need to focus on. You know, and the more likely that you are to grab fruit and veggies if they're in sight. So make sure that you put them on your list, keep them washed, keep them prepared. Veggies like cucumbers, celeries, peppers, carrots, keep them in the fridge ready. I know that I'll keep, if I am hungry and I'm trying to do a little reset, I will just grab a whole cucumber that's washed and ready and a little bit of salt, and I'll eat that whole cucumber. Or maybe I've got a cut up container of celery and I'll eat celery. Both of those are really my go-tos.
Yeah, that's a great weight loss tip when you're trying to lose weight is celery has a lot of fiber and good minerals in it, and it does something to your brain. It's like your brain says, I want cookies. And you say, oh yeah, shut up, and give it some celery, and then it calms it down. So it makes you so you don't have to snack as much.
Yeah, and it's a good crunch, you know, and dill pickles are also good that way. All pickles without sugar. So also just remember, as soon as you get home from the store, wash and chop your vegetables. And if they're raw that you're going to eat, you might even consider roasting them. I mean,
I love that.
We'll make like 4 trays of roasted vegetables, like asparagus, and the peppers are delicious.
Bell peppers roasted.
You can roast carrots. You can roast, what else do we put? Mushrooms on there. We put tomatoes on there. Some things take a little longer than others. We just spray a little coconut oil from a spray can on them, and then put some Slap Your Mama seasoning on them and roast them up. And
Slap your mama.
they're delicious. So also remember that the berries are low glycemic, strawberries, blueberries, so stick with those low glycemic. And when it comes to vegetables, don't forget about the frozen section. I really do prefer the fresh ones, but frozen veggies maintain their nutrients pretty well, and they're super affordable. And it's an easy way to pop them into any dish, so don't forget about those. You've probably heard me say in the past, it's important to eat a rainbow every day. Think of the colors of the rainbow. They're full of polyphenols and great antioxidants. Remember, Roy G. Biv. That's your acronym for the rainbow. And remember to eat the Dirty Dozen organic. So not everybody is aware of the Dirty Dozen. The Environmental Working Group lists the 12 most pesticide-laden fruits and vegetables every year. And that is EWG.org. And be aware of these. You only want to buy these organic. So the 2020 list is strawberries, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, and potatoes. And you can also Google to get Eric Wendy George.org, EWG.org. You can also Google to get their clean 15 list, which contains the least amount of pesticides. And then I finally want to say that all produce in Whole Foods is not organic. It's got to say that. If it says conventional, beware, because that's not organic. And if you're on a budget, we always say if you're on a budget, first of all, if you're doing dairy, you want to do low fat, but you really should get that organic and without any hormones. Then you should consider your meat without hormones and consider at least the Dirty Dozen organic. And that's a way to clean up the diet a little bit that way.
And a lot of my weight loss girls are dairy sensitive. So we like coconut, we like almond milk, stuff like that when you're trying to maintain.
And flax milk is another good option that I really like, that Good Karma flax milk. Okay, so we did a whole webinar called The Case Against Sugar. It's a huge topic. Sugar is very sneaky. It shows up in a lot of foods that we wouldn't expect. Salad dressings, which I don't really think that you should buy from the store anyway, because they're full of omega-6s, and we'll get to that in a minute. Things like juices, granola bars, ketchup, those are foods that are loaded with sugar. Actually, the American palate loves sugar.
Sugar.
So the food companies love to add it, and remember that the serving size on the package may be strategically cut down very small, so it doesn't look like there's much sugar per serving, but that's like, you have to be careful. So that sugar, that sodas and candies contain sugar, but do you know how much sugar fills up your daily allotment? According to the American Health Association, the maximum amount of added sugar you should eat a day is 37.5 grams for a male, which is 9 teaspoons, and 25 grams for a female adult, which is 6 teaspoons. So, how much sugar is in something is something that you really have to pay attention to.
How many grams of sugar in a glass of orange juice?
So 8-ounce glass of orange juice contains 21 grams of sugar. 21 grams of sugar. That's almost a full day for a female, and more than half for a man. And that's just like it's like something just to add to breakfast for some people. So one of the strategies I like to employ with my patients that are working to maintain good glycemic levels or good blood sugar levels is to utilize paleo products when they're reaching for what normally would be a high sugar grain product. So like a paleo product would use a nut flour instead of the grain, which really can be helpful, especially in the gluten-free population where the grains used have an even higher glycemic index than whole wheat products. So I think it's just important to be aware of how much sugar you should be getting a day, and then, you know, being aware of really what you're getting. So just the awareness is key there.
Sugar the devil.
So, you know, we all we have opportunity to eat out, and eating out can quickly turn into an easy way to overindulge and break away from a healthy diet. So the most important thing to keep in mind is balance. And one of the keys that we teach in Ideal Protein is that there's food combinations that are okay because of the way that they affect our insulin and our glucagon. And there are food combinations that are really bad and they put on weight. So the best food combination is fat and a protein, like a good fat and a protein, like, you know, avocado and meat, like is a good fat and a protein.
An egg.
Or an egg and meat, or nuts and meat, or butter on your vegetables with your meat if you eat butter. Another good combination is a low glycemic carb and protein. That is okay, like to eat a low glycemic carb and protein. The problem is when people eat carbs and fats together, that they put on weight. And it's because of the way it affects the hormones in the body. So you want to be really careful. That's where macaroni and cheese or
heart attack in a handbasket
or pizza is like not a good food combination. So like you can get away with that occasionally, but you can't get away with that all the time.
It's the perfect storm for weight gain.
So when you eat out, you know, plan ahead. Since we live on a gluten-free and a dairy-free diet, I'm often going online and checking out a restaurant ahead of time just to look at their menu to kind of prepare, you know, so kind of choose restaurants that don't tempt you to eat foods that you know you shouldn't eat, and then try to eat more vegetables when you go out. You know, don't go to a sports bar, you know, and if you're going out with friends, you know, if it's a bad restaurant, maybe you could, if it's not as healthy of a restaurant, maybe you could suggest something else. And if that's not possible because it's your friend's birthday and that's their favorite restaurant, well, then maybe eat ahead of time.
Eat a salad. And
then eat something smaller when you get there. Okay, so anyone on a low carb diet is aware of the fact, and we're getting ready to get into the more meaty part. So anyone on a low carb diet is aware of the fact that alcohol sugars can inhibit weight loss. So this is an FYI to those that aren't. When it comes to alcohol, you know, it's easy to get a lot of sugar and calories. And of course, the hard liquors like whiskey, vodka, brandy, gin, the pure alcohols are the better choices, but, you know, beware of moderation. If it's happy hour, which, you know, there's not too much of that right now, opt for clear liqueurs, you know, sugar-free mixes, a real fruit instead of fruit-flavored syrup, but even watch carefully the amount of real fruit, you know. And then, interestingly, watch out for tonic water. Tonic water is full of sugar. You know, it's fairly sweet, so you would never think that, but the calories in tonic water actually come from sugar, and there's 33 grams of carbohydrates in a single serving of tonic water. So you'd be better off to opt for sparkling water with a lemon or lime instead.
Wow.
And then if you are drinking, you know, make sure you drink a lot of water and don't feel like you have to be pressured, you know. We do sparkling water with lime and lemon like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once we've discussed sugar, it's also, like I said, important to read labels. So it's a good mention of that. Before you buy anything in the store that you're not familiar with, you really should look at the nutritional label. At first glance, you know, something might seem low in calories or sugar, but again, the serving size may be deceivingly small. And then I also want you to be aware of bad fats on labels. Really, the government has said there's no healthy level of trans fats. However, the food manufacturers are still allowed to put them in as long as the size in each serving is minimal. So what they do is they just decrease their serving sizes so that they get past that parameter. So remember that if on the label you see hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, fractionated, or shortening, there's a trans fat in it, and I drop it like it's a bad habit, as Daron would say.
Junk food.
It's junk food. Okay, we spent a whole webinar on inflammation, but it's really worth mentioning again because it's really important to understand. Remember that inflammation is the body's first line of defense, and we know it from our experiences with injuring ourselves and getting redness, swelling, pain that comes. Those things are all visible. In the 1980s and the 1990s, science began to realize that unseen things could be measured, and they could be great indicators of unseen inflammation in the body. So the inflammation that we're visibly acquainted with is what's called host defense, and it protects us. You know, so our host defense is focused on wound resolution, and it works to kill the damaged tissue, and then it rebuilds new tissue. And it's a complex process that's carried out by both the immune system and the nervous system. And it interacts with every other system of the body. So inflammation is good for us in many ways, but it's important that it stays regulated. And if it's not regulated, acute inflammation becomes chronic and it contributes to disease. In addition, like I remember taking care of a patient a number of years ago who broke their pelvis. And this patient was a diabetic. And the patient wasn't healing. The medical society went through, his med doctors went through all the normal things, even getting a bone stimulator to create healing in this patient. And I just said, you know, why don't we just start working on your blood sugar? Because if your blood sugar is elevated, you're not going to heal. You know, diabetics that have poor wound healing. We started doing that, and shortly thereafter, the next check on the with the CAT scan, the bones started to heal. So inflammation can really create some problems. So I'm going to just delve into the science for one quick moment of what happens inside our body.
Put on your thinking caps.
Okay, so our body has these receptors, and receptors are on cell membranes. And these receptors are called pattern recognition receptors. And they are important in recognizing what is us and what is not us, or what is normal or what is not normal. And when they lose the ability to do that, they begin to attack, they begin to promote a defense against the body itself. So in other words, we have these specific pattern recognition receptors so that they can identify what's called DAMPs and PAMPs. DAMPs are damage associated molecular patterns, and PAMPs are pathological associated molecular patterns. And that just means our body needs to know, like, hey, what is food? And when it looks for that, it's looking for a pattern on that, a molecular pattern, a protein associated with that. you know, a lectin, like something that it recognizes as normal or not normal. And then it also recognizes damage patterns, and it recognizes pathological patterns. So that's our immune system, and that actually begins in our gut. So that might be more than you want to know, but there's some practical points to connect here that are important. So really, what causes inflammation inside of us? Infections, tissue damage, oxidative stress, free radicals, oxidized lipids, which we think lipids are just the things that we measure in our bloodstream, but believe it or not, every single one of our cell membranes is made of lipids. So we can oxidize our own cell membranes. Dysbiosis, or a lack of balance of bacteria in the gut, can create inflammation. Immune dysregulation in diseases, like it's characteristic of things like asthma, allergies, autoimmune disease, which I've already mentioned, that causes inflammation. Cancer. Diet can cause inflammation, like ages, which we're going to talk about, advanced glycemic end products from too high of blood sugar, or even external sources, or bad fats that we eat, you know, or even some foods or stress can cause inflammation. So we all know that chronically elevated blood sugar or glucose is associated with nerve damage, blood vessel damage, poor circulation, poor wound healing, and possible blindness or loss of a limb. But how does that happen? It all happens through chronic inflammation. In this case, it does it through what's called AGEs, advanced glycemic end products. And, you know, these can be evidenced by our skin when our skin loses elasticity or its youthful appearance, but it also can be evidenced by poor wound healing. And just as a resource for you, you can Google Healthline and just what are advanced glycemic end products. And that you can get more information from that article. But, you know, there are foods that if we eat foods also that are high in AGEs, like a lot of red meat, certain cheeses, fried eggs, butter, cream cheese, margarine, mayonnaise, some oils, nuts like cashews and pine nuts are very high, especially if they're roasted. That's why we really should roast our nuts ourselves at a low temperature for a short time. Fried foods and highly processed products also contain a lot of AGEs, and that's why also it's kind of better, and research shows that a plant-based diet sometimes is better than a lot of meats.
Is that why you don't age?
We do eat meat, you know, we balance it.
I mean, you don't eat any other stuff.
No. So advanced glycemic end products, you know, let me just mention one more time with glucose. When glucose is high in our bloodstream, it attaches to proteins and fats in the bloodstream and in the cell membrane, and it creates these AGEs. And it creates oxidation and inflammation that is over the top. And it glycates and damages the proteins, and that's how the nerves get damaged, and it actually can glycate and damage the cell membranes. So a picture of that would be like putting a sugary olive oil marinade on a steak and then putting it on a grill at high temperature. And the sugar and the fat are both susceptible, and it creates AGEs. And it produces also these products called heterocyclic amines and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and they're dangerous.
Say that 3 times.
So, you know, we used to grill a lot more than we do now. We
don't grill too much. We cook in the oven now.
Yeah, we really don't grill that much anymore, and this is the reason why. So especially beware if you're not grilling. If you are grilling, especially beware of not cooking with olive oil. You know, even if you're cooking inside your home, you don't want to cook with olive oil. Like, I find recipes in healthy cookbooks that tell you to use olive oil to roast vegetables. And most vegetables are roasted around 400 degrees and maybe a little higher. It's too hot. Olive oil can sustain about a 270-degree temperature, or else then it gets disfigured, and that is oxidized then.
That's a known carcinogen.
Well,
When you cook the olive oil like that. I've been doing using an iron skillet and doing my steaks in there instead of on the grill, and it's a lot healthier and it tastes better.
Yeah, so also I want to say that the World Health Organization has placed processed meats, including bacon and sausages, in the same category as smoking and asbestos exposure for causing cancer.
Wow.
So beware of also processed meats that contain nitrates. And don't eat nuts that taste funny. They taste funny because they're oxidized, and that means they're bad. And when they're oxidized, they bind to this receptor called a LOX receptor, and it's a DAMP, a damage-associated molecular pattern, and it produces inflammation. And interestingly enough, that receptor starts this inflammatory cascade that would be stopped by the use of NSAIDs that are like the off-the-market Vioxx or Celebrex. They worked right there in that biochemical pathway. But guess what? Fish oil works there, and it does so without all the bad side effects. So remember that fish oil can oxidize real easily, so keep it refrigerated after you open. Remember what oxidation is its exposure to oxygen. It's just like cutting an apple and leaving it on a counter and it gets brown. And elevated glucose and insulin also promote the synthesis of the most pro-inflammatory substance in our body called arachidonic acid. So we all should be aware of our omega-6 to 3 ratio. And remember that omega-6s are very pro-inflammatory and omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. Omega-6s are overabundant in our food supply. So there are things like in crackers, chips, bagels, pizza, salad dressings, muffins, just so many things that have a fat in them in the store. It's either a trans fat or an omega-6. The trans fats have a long shelf life. The omega-6s are the next in line there. Omega-3s aren't really in our diet. In the standard American diet really doesn't include a lot of 3s, but we can be eating like a huge amount of 6s a day. And the ratio really that the research would say the average American can have 20 to 30 times the amount of 6s in their body as 3s. So the ratio can be anywhere from 20 to 30 to 1. And this is disastrous for health consequences. What this means is that the body is producing inflammation 20 to 30 times stronger than it's stifling it.
Wow.
And that's like a major springboard for chronic degenerative diseases of all kinds. So it's basically impossible to have a good ratio without taking a good omega-3 supplement. And then you need to make sure you're taking a good dose. Like I generally, if I am just getting somebody on a more maintenance dose, I'm going to put them on 1,200 milligrams of omega-3s. That's DHA and EPA combined. You have to be careful when you look at the container, because the container may say 1,000 milligrams on the front, but then you turn it over and the DHA and EPA is a lot less. And then you got to figure out how many you have to take to get that. So you got to make sure that you know what you're doing there. So 1,200 milligrams a day would be minimum. It's really hard to do that with a diet unless you're getting wild caught Alaskan salmon 3 to 4 times a week. Don't buy wild Atlantic salmon.
There's no such thing.
It's not wild. It's been farmed. It's been fed corn and soy, which are omega-6s, in order to survive, in order to grow. And then they catch it and they call it wild.
It's a fat fish.
So it's not true. It's untruth, kind of, or distruth, or whatever. So one more reminder about inflammation: an elevated BMI elevates inflammation. Long-term weight loss is more than just a diet. It involves lifestyle changes. Essential habits, according to the National Weight Control Registry, looked at 10,000 people, and they found that people that had lost an average of 66 pounds and kept it off for 5+ years had these facts. They were 98% of them modified their food intake, and lower calories was the key. 78% ate breakfast every day. 94% increased physical activity, mostly walking. 90% exercised an hour per day. 62% watched less than 10 hours of TV per week. And 75% weighed themselves at least once a week. And then finally, I just want to mention the importance of knowing your vitamin D level. It is, when it is suboptimal, it really promotes inflammation. It's a powerful vitamin. It's easy to replete. Every membrane has a vitamin D receptor on it. You should have your level checked yearly. You know, we have a liquid supplement in the clinic, which is by far the best way I have found to optimize vitamin D levels. And it seems like there was something that I wanted to say. Oh yes, about the fish oil. Remember, with fish oil, if you are on a blood thinner, you have to be careful with that. And we usually won't put a patient on more than 1,000 milligrams a day with that. So we kind of work with their primary doctors as well.
I had a patient bring in a bottle of omega-3s from Whole Foods, and we compared it to one of our omega-3s. And in order to get the amount of the right EPA, DPA she was talking about, she would have to take 12 of the one from Whole Foods to equal 2 of ours. So you got to make sure you read your labels.
Right. So most people aren't aware that they don't get enough fiber. Also, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin C, B12, magnesium, calcium, iodine, and iron are often low in a person's diet, and as a result in their blood, you know. So a 2008 study was done, and it showed that supplementing a combo of vitamin D and calcium helped dieters lose twice as much fat in the 4th week of a 12-week study. So it worked that fast. It worked in a month. They lost twice as much fat as compared to the dieters who weren't taking the calcium and vitamin D. So blood work may be necessary. You might need to get yours checked out. A good resource for you on supplement deficiencies, you can go to Healthline again. It's healthline.com. And then the article is called 7 Nutrient Deficiencies That Are Incredibly Common. I want to remind you that postmenopausal females should not be iron deficient. If they are, there's an underlying problem, and it's generally related to the gut. On the other end of the spectrum, there is a hereditary condition that can be a real issue to joints and organs and can cause fatigue and abdominal pain. It's underdiagnosed frequently, and it's called hereditary hemochromatosis. It causes the body to absorb too much iron. And type 1 is one of the most common genetic disorders in the United States. It often affects people of European descent. And usually the symptoms develop in adult males between 40 and 60 and postmenopausal females. So it's more common in males than females. So if you are a postmenopausal female, don't just add iron without a lab being done, because you could be putting yourself at risk. Too much iron is pro-oxidative, and that's not good. Adequate intake of fiber is associated with digestive health, reduced risk for heart disease, stroke, hypertension, GI disorders, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers. And consumer research suggests that the public is aware of the benefits of fiber, but most people think they are getting enough. The National Consumption Survey suggests that only 5% of the population is meeting recommendations, and the inadequate intake is really a major public health concern. The intake is like 25 to 38 grams per day, depending on your age and gender. So a good starting point would just be like 25 grams per day. For more information on that, you can Google the Harvard Health blog, and the name of the article is, "Should I Be Eating More Fiber?" So now we're going to go to probiotics, and it's like, I guess probiotics are still part of this. Yeah. Probiotics, do we need them? You know, so before we answer that, let's consider some facts about our gut and the microbes or the bacteria that are essential to good health. Our gut is our largest immune organ. It's more than 30 feet long, and it contains trillions of microbes for our well-being.
That's crazy.
Our gut contains 3 times as many bacteria as our human cells, and our good bacteria are called commensal. Our gut is considered to like be this walled city outside our body, but it runs through our body. It's a strong wall. It's a single cell membrane layer thick between the inside and the outside of the body. So from our mouth to our butt, it's this walled city, which is not considered to be in our body because of the tight barrier that that is between the cell membranes of the lumen of the gut. And that single cell membrane is the only thing that separates the inside of the lumen of our digestive tract to our bloodstream. So it's really important that we keep this barrier safe. And increased intestinal permeability is associated with a lot of disorders, chronic diseases of inflammation, cancer, autoimmune diseases, allergies, joint problems, pain syndromes, neurological problems. And the key to our immunity in our gut is our microbes. They actually help to promote our immune system balance. And they actually are what determines, are we moving more to a more inflammatory state, or are we moving more away from it? So in general, our gut should be anti-inflammatory because what primarily goes in is our food, and our immune system should generally be tolerant to the food that we eat. But if we have the wrong balance of microbes, or we're under too much stress, or we're genetically susceptible to foods that others may tolerate, our guts can switch to be more pro-inflammatory. And interestingly enough, our gut lining has more neurons in it than the spinal cord. In fact, 90% of all of the afferent signals, the ones that leave the gut and go up and out throughout the body, are through the vagus nerve, which innervates all of the body's systems, and they're sent from the gut to the brain. And this is where the term gut feeling comes from.
Wow.
We've got so many neurons there. So our microbiota is extremely important. The bacteria in our gut affect our appetite, our taste, our immunity, our nutrient absorption, our strength, our weight gain, our energy, our skin tone, our blood sugar, our fatty acid levels, inflammation, our weight, allergies, mood, memory, cognition, and neurodegenerative conditions.
Wow.
So like when we speak of our microbiome, diversity is health. Low diversity is disease, and this is termed dysbiosis. So when we think about eating, we may change the way we think to, we're not eating for us, we're eating for our microbiome. When we eat properly, not only do we feed the microbes, but they also metabolize things that we eat, like the skin of peppers, and they give us a byproduct that has an even stronger antioxidant capacity. They also produce a lot of medium chain triglycerides, which are associated with health, heart health. So the hallmark of disease is reduced microbial diversity. An imbalance leads to an overgrowth of some species, and low diversity is really associated with neurological issues, neurodegenerative conditions, metabolic syndrome, obesity, and dysbiosis drives inflammation by activating immune cells, which cause inflammation. So when our gut microbes are disordered, guess what? So are we. So what depletes our microbiome? Preservatives, antibiotics do, pesticides, fertilizers, GMOs, hormones added to food, genetics, age, environmental toxins, animal-rich diets, hydration status, sedentary lifestyle, lack of sleep, chronic stress, addiction behaviors, taking antioxidants and PPIs. You know,
sounds like everybody over COVID.
Our stomach produces hydrochloric acid. I get so focused. I get so focused. I'm sorry, dear. And it's like my brain gets so focused. I'm like on a mission. But our stomach produces hydrochloric acid, and it does so for some really good reasons. It disinfects what's at the level of the stomach. The hydrochloric acid is also important for cleaving the peptide bonds so that our proteins can be adequately digested, as well as our minerals absorbed. So when people are on long-term antacids or proton pump inhibitors, they can develop bad bacteria on board because of the fact that the disinfector is not able to work. And then I also want to mention that there's a huge gut and brain relationship. It's important in brain development, the gut. And animal studies show that learning deficits can come in the offspring of mothers who have dysbiosis in their gut. And if we have gut dysbiosis, we can experience cognitive fuzziness, fatigue, anxiety, increased pain susceptibility, depression. And you know, the interesting thing is, I might take care of somebody that's 35, and their problems, I can look at the path of their problems that go all the way back to their childhood when they were given repeated antibiotics for ear infections. And it's just interesting to watch, you know, the overgrowth of yeast, or, you know, the recurrent susceptibility to colds. It's like, it's just, you can see the pathway.
That was the story of my life.
It really was. When Daron and I first got married, he had bad sinus problems. He was really a sickly kid. He had a lot of...
When I was a child, I had antibiotics given to me right after birth. And I developed asthma, sinus problems, skin issues, psoriasis, depression, all kind of wild stuff. And it was because my gut was really out of balance.
When we first got married, he was taking an antihistamine all the time. And he, like me, I'm like, I have no drugs, right? I don't do drugs, right? And I'm like, and like, it took about 2 years where we got him away from, maybe it was a year, but it radically changed you. Mm-hmm. You know, it really made a difference, you know. So
I was also doing a lot of artificial sweeteners and stuff, so it was giving headaches and depression, and I was living on Tylenol PM, and then I met him.
He met his angel. All right, so it's also been brought to my attention that, you know, there's a lot of antibiotics that are given to our soldiers that are on tour duty overseas. This is a real issue, and it can be related to anxiety. So dysbiosis from the overuse of antibiotics causes anxiety. It's a signal. Anxiety is a signal that something isn't right, which a lot of times in the past people have thought it to be related only to outside factors, but this is really a great example of a physical internal factor, not a mental factor, that can be the cause of anxiety. And really, this should be a red flag to anybody who has gut issues, or anybody that's taken a lot of antibiotics. So now you can ask the question, do you need a probiotic? It's like, well, I think the case is clear. It makes sense to take one. Good health begins in the gut. Probiotics are one of the supplements that I feel are mandatory for individuals at some level. Remember that diversity of the product is key. It also makes sense to use probiotic type foods like kombucha, watch the sugar levels. Some companies are better than others, fermented vegetables, live culture yogurts, and then finally, like microbes in our oral health, it's the same tube, in our mouth, in our gut, in our butt. And, poor oral health is increasingly recognized as a contributor to heart disease, Alzheimer's, and other conditions. And a quick fact is the placenta is 10% microbes, and a majority of those microbes are oral origin. The placenta really is a critical regulator of the prenatal environment and essential for a healthy pregnancy and fetal development. It transports the nutrients from the mother to the fetus and produces hormones to maintain a good pregnancy. The placenta harbors these bacterial communities, and depending on their composition, they can affect pregnancy outcome and fetal health.
Wow.
And lastly, it's important to remember that there are natural and harmless fertilizers for our microbiome. Our gut bacteria are like tourists, they come in, they stay a few weeks, they make some good deposits, and then they get excreted, they leave. So it's important to repopulate them. One of the ways to grow them is to have a diet that's filled with good prebiotics. They're fertilizers for probiotics, and some foods that are good prebiotics are garlic, onion, leeks, blueberries. We like blueberries in our house. Flax seeds, dandelion greens, Jerusalem artichokes, bananas, apples, and cocoa.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay, so exercise isn't a topic that a lot of people get excited about, but I'm hoping to help change that. Staying active is so important for mental and physical health, and there's countless studies that have been done that have proven the benefits of regular exercise. So start small. We've heard of doing things like park the car farther away, take the stairs. But really, to me, one of the best ways to make exercise a good habit is to get a workout buddy. We work out longer and more often when we exercise with a friend. And make friends with people who spend their weekends hiking, walking, playing tennis, riding bikes, walking through hunting property. The more you start moving, the more that you'll keep moving, So that's a good thing. And this is a big boom, 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 boom. Beware, beware, beware. Don't try to outbike or outrun a bad diet. The truth of the matter is that if you're trying to lose weight or maintain weight, what you put in your body is far more important than exercise. So beware also of the natural tendency of people to eat more when they are exercising, just because they think I burned those calories, so I deserve it. And I can do that. This is a great place to insert, get outside. Direct sunlight, especially between the hours of 8 and 12, reduce your risk of weight gain. Sunlight is so good for recharging our batteries, our mitochondria, which are energy centers, and really getting your feet in the grass is amazing. So if somebody was in pain or not healing well, I would say, you know what? There's a lot of things that you can do, but one of them can be just get outside in the morning sun and get your feet in the grass, Take your omegas, take your Proflora, start eating vegetables,
get your head out of bed.
Drink good water. Okay, so there's healthy and unhealthy ways to deal with stress, and it really all comes down to how we direct our negative energy. Do we direct it into something that's productive, or do we direct it into something that's unproductive? So unproductive ways would include like binge eating, overindulging in alcohol or other substances, or getting angry but not doing anything about it. Healthy, productive ways could be exercising, talking to somebody that you trust, finding a creative outlet, write, paint, draw, clean, organize, accomplish something that you wanted to do. You know, one strategy studied a cohort of 10,000 people over a period of 3 months, and their strategy was stop, breathe, think. Stop, breathe, think. It improved anxiety by 46%. It's also important we stay connected. You know, chronic stress has a real negative effect on our brain. And scans show that individuals that have chronic stress have an overactive, enlarged amygdala. And that is that emotional place that we talked about at the start of this. And it's where fear and negativity and anger really come from. So be careful. Chronic stress does that. It also causes an underactive frontal lobe. We talked about that. That's where our executive decision making is. And it also produces an underactive hippocampus, which is our memory center. So during chronic stress, you know, these areas are compromised. Our attention, our concentration, impulse control, emotional control, short-term memory, long-term memory, insight, planning, judgment, decision-making. Okay, here's another beware. Guess what stressed is? What stressed is spelled backwards?
I know.
What is it?
Dessert.
Okay, so stress
Desserts.
spelled backward is dessert. So be careful. So, you know, like be careful of stress and maladaptive behaviors. Like I feel bad, so I eat cookies, you know, and then I feel good, you know, because I ate cookies, but then that's not good because it's not a good cycle. So beware of changing your cycles, and, you know, just also stay connected because that helps. I want to quickly remind us of the importance of a good night's sleep here. Remember to keep it regular, develop a routine before going to bed, dim your lights at sundown inside the house, avoid blue light of computer or TV close to going to bed, and don't sleep with the TV on. The research in the Journal of Epidemiology says that exposure to light at nighttime not only can interfere with a good night's sleep, but it also can lead to weight gain. So we all get hit with negative thoughts now and then. Here are some ways to push back. Write them down. If you don't have a journal, get one. Just scribble your thoughts down. Just getting them out of your head is helpful. You know, letting it swim around in your head without an outlet is damaging. Talk about it with a friend, you know. Consider learning more about our brain tap technology. It helps in this area tremendously. We dedicated also a whole webinar to that. And then we can easily get into the habit of filling our days with routines that are practical but boring. You know, we get used to the way we move through the world, and we tend to miss out on the beautiful things that are around us. So to solve this, take time throughout your day to stop and observe your surroundings, you know. Allow yourself to take a moment to feel grateful for simple things like fresh water, flowers, or birds that sing in the morning.
Being born in America.
Being born in America.
All you gotta do is tune in at Facebook in the mornings about 7:15 when we hit the car on the way to work. Y'all get a little bit of joy in your life.
Yeah, so staying motivated is an important step to working towards reaching all of our goals, you know. So help keep in mind that your motivation is part of moving forward, and maybe you could create a vision board and place it somewhere where you see it every day. Fill it with photos or sayings or other things that bring you joy and inspiration. You know, usually vision boards are used to help motivate personal and professional pieces of our life, but they can be tailored towards just healthy aspects of our life. Filling it up with yummy, healthy foods, fruits and vegetables, refreshing looking glasses of water, pictures of sunshine, outdoors. They all give us images
Pictures of hunting.
That conjure health and happiness. So again, we made it through. I went a little long on this one. I'm sorry, but it was like so loaded with information. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. We are going to answer a few questions because I've gone so late. We won't answer it, but a few. But if you have to leave us, we absolutely love getting the opportunity to chat with you. We hope you learned something valuable. We want you also to know how proud we are of each of you for taking the steps to create healthy habits and routines that will make you healthier.
And listen,
so we really appreciate y'all.
We're thankful for each one of you guys. Listen, guys, go to Facebook, Hannan Wellness. We also have a Hannan Wellness Tribe, and it's a small group. You got to ask being. It's a private group that if you have private questions and stuff you want to ask on that one. Hannan Wellness is our clinic website on Facebook. It's got over 5,000 people, I think almost 6,000 people on there. So if you have a small business, or if you want to promote your business, go on Hannan Wellness and just say the name of your business so we can give y'all a plug in, because we want to share the love with y'all's businesses and try to help promote everybody. So as we crank up the economy again, everybody starts rocking and rolling again. So the first question was, Greg wanted to know the name of somebody wanted to know the name of the water company that we use.
So in the area, we use a water company called The Water Company.
The water company.
And
Julio Torres.
And you can Google it or call the girls. Call the girls at the office. They'll give you a phone number for that. And now we can see and y'all. Okay, what else you got?
And what's the best veggies to buy? So we really recommend, I mean, honestly, frozen organic is number one on the hierarchy of vegetables.
Well, fresh organic.
Yeah, fresh organic is on the highest. Then right under fresh organic is frozen organic. And whoa.
Something happened.
We just lost everybody.
No, something happened with Carly's screen.
I got it. And
go back.
Options.
I don't know how that happened.
Me neither. So
well, I'll just answer that. It's like, oh, there we go. I'll just answer that. Fresh organic is best. Like, again, when you think of vegetables, you want to think of all the different colors, you know, like red peppers, orange peppers. Unless a person has a lot of joint problems, the peppers, sometimes the nightshades could be an issue. But I want to think of peppers. I want to think of all the great greens that are out there, from just like collard greens and romaine and mixed greens and asparagus and broccoli. I want to think about cauliflower. I want to think about asparagus. I'm trying to think of vegetables that we buy. We buy so many vegetables. The brassica vegetables are really important for hormone. Yes, Brussels sprouts. That's another one. Hormone. So you could look up the brassica family of vegetables. They're great for metabolizing our hormones down the proper pathway. So they're really good for females and men both, especially since there's a lot of hormones in things that we're exposed to. But really just get used to exploring all the vegetables that are out there. And I wouldn't eat a lot of corn. Doesn't mean I don't eat corn, but like corn is not, if your vegetables are French fries and corn, you need to change that.
There was a young girl who came years ago, and she wanted to lose 20 pounds. She was like 20 years old, and she said, I gave her a list of vegetables not to eat. And she said that it was corn, potatoes, carrots, and peas. She said, that's the only ones I like. I said, how big is your mom? She said, really big. Why? I said, you're going to look like her in a few years if you keep doing what you're doing. I said, you got to get off of those high sugar vegetables and eat the fiber vegetables. It's the broccoli, the cauliflower, the asparagus, all those high fiber vegetables, low glycemic vegetables will help clean your gut and it helps you lose weight. So you're going to eat more.
And remember, it feeds the microbiome, because now you're realizing that you're not eating for you. You're eating for the 3 trillion microbiome bacteria that are in your gut, and you want to keep them happy, because if you keep them happy, they contribute greatly to your health. And remember, if you're eating packaged foods that are dead and don't have nutrition, it does nothing for those critters that are inside of us that are just
That's
getting
the next
food.
question about. It says, what about the seeds and peppers and tomatoes? Do they destroy the microbes?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ideas out there. We take out the seeds of our peppers, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We take out the seeds of our peppers when we cook them. And we eat a lot of peppers both in our salads because they're so colorful. Like, I love orange peppers. Like, Daron will be my sous chef chopping, and he's like, taste this. It's like delicious. And it's like, yes, it is. So he's
Lovely.
Chop some, eat some, chop some. So we eat them raw, and we also eat them roasted a lot.
They taste better roasted.
Yeah.
But anyway, but they're like candy when you're on the diet.
All right, what you got?
If you want to lose more than 30 pounds, what do you recommend? We recommend Ideal Protein.
Yeah.
Program.
So more than 30 pounds, honestly, the fastest way that I know to lose weight is IP, but also I would say that, and it's only the fastest way because it targets fat and it's canned and planned. But, if that's not an option for somebody, we can adopt a plan that's similar to that, that's just a little slower and it's easier to cheat on. That's the whole thing. When you say fastest, it's the way I go. When I want to take off 10 pounds, I'm doing IP, because boom, I'm done. It's a month and I'm done. And, that's just how I choose.
Girls do 8 to 10 pounds a month. Guys do 16 to 20 pounds per month on Ideal Protein, and it's fast, it's safe, it's effective, and we teach you how to keep it off too. That's what the coach was all about.
And then I would just add to that the best strategies also can be determined by blood work. So it might be best to look at blood work, and then from that blood work, I could explain to a patient why one particular strategy might be better than another, because I want to remind all of us that one of the issues in society today is hyperglycemia, or too high of blood sugar. And once blood sugar gets above a certain point, the rules of weight loss change. Like, you can't lose weight like you used to be able to, because once you get into that metabolic syndrome place, you have to decrease the insulin to lose weight. And that is the ultimate key. So blood work is really important. We've had a number of female patients that have come in and saw us and seen us, and they couldn't get pregnant. And, pregnancy isn't always about the hormones of estrogen and progesterone or DHEA or testosterone. A lot of times these girls are PCOS. It's related to too high insulin. You fix that, and then you got a fertile myrtle, and it just totally changes things around.
And boom, they got a baby.
Okay, what else we got?
Why are cashews bad for you?
Well, cashews aren't bad. We do eat them sometimes, but when I was talking to ages, the advanced glycemic end products. My brain is starting to spin. The point was that cashews have a lot of ages in them. But the other thing with cashews, to me, if you're a nut eater,
bean.
they're fine if you eat a few of them, but they have more carbs than other nuts. The better nuts that are lower in carbs would be like walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, and pecans. And those are really the lower glycemic nuts. But nuts we all have to be careful with because they are fat, and fats have 9 calories per gram, and we put weight on faster. Like I don't get fat from eating junk food. I get fat from eating blueberries and nuts. You know, I get fat from eating what makes bears fat, like too many blueberries and nuts. So, you know, even good foods we have to be careful of in moderation, you know, to moderate. And I really am a big proponent of, y'all, if your blood sugar is not in that optimal range of 75 to 86, there should be a great attention to fixing that, because that has such power inside your system. Now, I talk about a lot of powerful things here tonight, and that's not the only thing. There's a lot of things, but that's why I say start somewhere. Write down what you want to do now and start there. And, you know, a mountain is climbed one step at a time. And, you know, we can all move forward that way.
Well, the other thing about cashews is I've always said if I want to win a fat contest, I drink Diet Coke and eat cashews. Okay, next, last question. Do we get enough calcium with almond milk? Well, you know, you get enough calcium if you eat broccoli.
Well, I'm going to answer that a little more technically. You know, it depends on what your age and stage is, right? So if you're a postmenopausal female, like the requirement on that would be 1,200 milligrams a day. You know, a male might be 600 milligrams. Now, the cardiologists don't like people doing a ton of CalMag supplements, although I think that it makes sense that you have to supplement, especially postmenopausal in some cases. And I love the Algacal supplement, which was made by the naturopath, and it's made from algae, and it has micro nutrients in it that more closely mimic our bone. So what I would do, and what I do, I'm 59, is I take 600 milligrams. So I'm postmenopausal. I'll take 600 milligrams, and then I watch what I eat. So I think you look then for 600 milligrams of intake in the food that you're eating, and you just kind of have to kind of look at it and plot it out.
And that's it.
And that's it. And we so are thankful for
thank y'all for hanging with us all night.
You all. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. It's really a lot of fun to do this. We love you all. We love helping people get healthy.
Yes, and we're going to send the video out to you guys.
Thank you.
And you can share it with your family and loved ones. We thank y'all. And yes, we will be open full force by May 15th. Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop. I can't read it. What does it say?
IP.
IP.
Bring it.
Bring it. All right, y'all. Thanks so much.
Y'all have a good evening.
Y'all so fun.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
All right,
bye.
good night.